There she is. All right. Oh, that's a good tune. Oh man, leave the lights on. Are you serious? Okay. Well, sorry. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Okay, so this, Angela di Muscariello. Muscariello. I assume. I like this site. I like this. I like this. This is fantastic. Matt, are you seeing this? By the way, Matt-esque, of course. A man who needs no introduction. He is joining us every week in the chat to straight talk. I tend to sugarcoat things a bit and try and keep things a little bit... in general, try and keep things positive anyways. But Matt is definitely here to say it like it is. And there he goes. Already, clean page, demo up front. And Metrazol, what's up? Thank you for all your Twitter support as well, yo. Appreciate that. Yeah, amazing. This is great. First thing you see. It's like, oh, what's she about? Oh, it's right here. Cool, I'll check it out. And also, August 2016, what's up? So recent. And beneath that, if we want to keep working, oh, cool, this is more info on each thing. That's good. And that's it. LinkedIn and Vimeo. All right. And then under About, we'll jump in here. We'll get back to the reel in a second. I am Angela Muscariello. Here is my website. Welcome. I'm a graduate of the Rochester Institute of Technology, where my field of study was game design and development with a focus in sound design and audio implementation for video games. So technically, my degree reads as game design and development, major music and technology, minor. It's all very fancy and formal until you realize that what I do is throw things against the wall, mostly literal. I drop some things too, to record the sound, literally, and see what sticks, only literally sometimes. It is then my job to take those recorded sounds, mix and edit them to my and my team's liking. I did this using Magic Pro Tools. For the last 3 years, I have worked with my fellow game design students to create sound assets for their games. I have also been a part of various student film and animation teams, acting as a field recorder, Foley artist, and post-production editor. I am familiar with PC and Mac operating systems and love both of them equally. It's very diplomatic. Resumes are filled with requests. Okay, cool. So that's fantastic. I like this a lot. Here's the thing. It's cute. I like it. I like it. And back to here. So before we jump into anything, I'll bring up this snazzy little... Oh, look at that. Okay, so what we're looking for... You hear that? A+. A+ tire squeals. Okay, so we're looking for 4 things. Matt and I a while back kind of nailed down what it is exactly we look for, rather than, well, with the goal of having this this whole critique be a bit more structured, rather than just be a kind of a mishmash of talking points. So we go through presentation, material selection, content quality, and distinction. So presentation being just how's your stuff look, that includes your website and your bio, everything kind of just how you're presenting yourself on the internet to whomever might be looking at this thing. Hey Tash, good to see you. Material selection is, of course, what's in the reel and on the site. Content quality is just the, of course, quality of the things that are in there. And distinction being anything that may set you and your work apart from the massive numbers of competitors out there in the world right now. So, reel is 158. Oh, it's double the sweet spot. So we try and keep things at a minute long. Just presentation-wise for the site, as we've already said, this being first and foremost is fantastic. Really like that. About is concise. Here we go. Contact. I haven't looked yet, but I'm sure it's very simple. Oh, it's so nifty. Here's a nifty form. So nifty. Yeah, great. This is a really nice site. Very nice. Excuse me. All right, and then into the reel. Let's do it, yeah? And I'll make sure my volume is actually up and not at 5% like it was last week. Sorry about that, Thomas Sulkowski. Or was it Javier? It might have been Javier, actually. Okay, let's do it. Full screen. Can I do this here? I think I can do it here, right? Play and HD. It's prompt. That's good.
The player starting a round draws a hex, leaves it face down on the table without reading it, and sends it to another player at the table. The targeted player then uses a defense card to deflect it to another player.
At least the first time when you left, you had the decency to do it yourself.
Edward, if I could do this myself, I would.
Oh, but you're in danger. Excuse me for calling bullshit, but what is it this time? You know, you think for once you could tell the truth.
We gotta go.
Some clappers in the chat, please. Thank you very much, Angela, for your submission, yo. Appreciate that. Okay, here's the thing. So it was on the long side, but because things move by so fast, it didn't feel that bad. That said, I think you could still, you could still cut it down more. Easy. Just don't be afraid to slam through it. And like we've seen on the other reels we've looked at, I think the thing to remember is that if you have additional content, for example, if you had a third page here, or I guess a fourth page, kind of their home page, if you had a fourth page that had a deeper look into these various things, if I really did want to see more of something, I can go look. But I mean, for example, you have the content here, right? You've got it. So if I want to go see this, like the Nomad in its full form, I can do that very easily. So I appreciate that you want to kind of show some stuff you're proud of that's perhaps more than just a quick snip. You can definitely cut down more than this. Like Matt says, yeah, it didn't seem as long as it was. It didn't seem like 2 minutes. It seemed shorter, actually. But tightening up would leave me wanting more rather than being a bit bored, right? It's kind of like how Ryan Clark, developer of Crypt of the Necrodancer, and just a smart dude in general, that guy, if he has something to say to you about your work, you should listen and write all of it down. But he's a big proponent of trailers getting you interested and stopping. Like, just stop right there, because as soon as it's like overselling, right? If you're a salesman and you sell and they're already sold, don't keep selling, because you've already been sold, and all you do by continuing the effort is risking them dropping off again, right? So with this, like Matt says, leave us wanting more rather than risking us being bored, because it's good flow and it's good work. So you don't need to show double what you have to, you know. So let's go through again though. So that said, being 2 minutes, there was no point at which I would have stopped it. I watched through. I was like, that's fine, and it kept flowing on. So the fact that your first shot was so short, kind of led me to assume that the following shots would be as well, and they were. So that's good. So let's have a look again, full screen, shall we? And I've got my sidechain off, by the way. So this being sound only is good. Yeah, it's nice being like, hey, this is my game audio only, and then music second part. I assume you did music also, right? Did you say that here? I don't recall. Foley, sound mixing, sound editing, sound design. So I guess this is the kind of the mix show. You didn't do the music. So for this shot, we'll talk about... Excuse me. Ugh, chugging too much water here. So we'll talk about material selection here. First one, no music is great. Really good. Next shot, being kind of full mix, some different ideas. It's also a very different medium. It's nice. Is cool. We'll carry
The
on.
targeted player then uses
This
a
being
defense
voice
card
work,
to
voice
deflect it
editing.
to another player
And some sound effects, I
and
think.
sends it to another player at the table.
Oh, just
The
VO.
target
Okay, just
sends
VO.
it to another player.
VO
at
recorder,
the
VO
table.
editor. Cool. So this is varied so far. Fully sound mixing, sound editing, sound design. Good.
Could do this myself, I would.
Something
But you're
live
in
or film
danger.
stuff. I mean, like
Excuse me for calling bullshit.
it's tricky because it's. I appreciate why you're doing film stuff in here. It's because you just simply don't have enough game stuff to put on a reel. I assume safely that's probably the reason, right? So this is tricky to have on like a game sound, because your site says, you know, game sound design, right? So here's why these are good. It's much better than a complete absence of work. That's definitely the case. And like I've said on this stream several times before, if you hand in a resume and you want a game sound job, but you're like let's say an internship, something very, very entry level, don't put your stint at a hotel desk on the resume. It's not relevant at all. But if you're doing live sound for a music festival or something, it's not game sound, but it clearly shows that you've got at least an interest in relevant fields and in kind of the whole world of sound. And this is very good for that too. So even though this might not, like, hell, I had this in my original reel. Like I had examples of editing work and stuff from like a feature doc I did, or from some other kind of cartoon work I did for friends, like that kind of thing. It's still very much reasonable, and it does have a home here, although it's not as ideal as it could be with a game thing, obviously. Matt says regarding the opening shot, in terms of the kind of quality of the shot, it's okay. There's some dead space, so you're kind of sitting there waiting for more. There's one shot where it's just silent for a while. Yeah, like it's. I feel like there could be more happening in this shot. So let's see this. So it's Gibraltar, designer John Miller, Foley, sound editor, sound designer. Okay. So like in this shot, I kind of see these things moving, and I see like this. It's like a cardboard kind of feel. Is that the idea? It's all paper and cardboard. This slides down. There's no sound for that. This comes in and out. There's no sound for that. And the thing is, it's not. It probably isn't a big deal in game if there's music or something happening, but the fact that we have the magnifying glass out, as we should, right? So it's tricky because the moment that something happens and there isn't sound for it, it really sticks out. So that feels, and I don't know if you had any say on what sounds were to be designed, but I think for the sake of a reel, even if it gets a little bit tricky, because if this is like a shipped project, or, well, let's see what this is. So it's a video game created by John Miller. I created, recorded, and edited all sound assets, passed them along to John for implementation in Unity. The game is currently in development at the Rochester Institute of Technology's Magic Center, using Magic, after going to the final round of for the Microsoft. Okay, that's fine. So I guess this is currently in development still. Given that it's currently in development, I would not be averse to the idea of actually taking this same capture you have and just filling it out. Because if it's a mock-up of game design, it's like it's like kind of, it's stretching the truth a bit. But if you have a say over this project anyways, I'd recommend having things like ambient sound for things moving, or ambience in general. Like, I don't know where this is set, but you could have, you know, it could be like a stylized kind of maybe some water, or some ocean waves, or some meadow birds, or whatever. It is something kind of implying that there's more than just dead air, because right now it is dead air. If it's still in dev, I think it'd be okay to show final prototype audio vision, says Matt. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't fault you for it. I wouldn't be like, oh, this is what a liar. And really, for a game like this, like, also, no one's gonna, if it's the game you're working on, no one's gonna look into it and be like, oh, she's lying. Like, it's not ever gonna happen. Especially if it's audio vision and you're currently working on it. So you could add in ambience, add in some more, just sync on the timeline, this kind of stuff coming in and out. And if you really feel strongly about it, just say final audio vision in parentheses here. Done. And it's fine. And all we're looking for is like, here's what we want it to sound like, and if you have a good idea of what something should sound like at the final state, that's also very useful. That's very good information to have as an employer. If I can tell that you know what the game should sound like eventually, and you're working towards that, then that's also very informative. That's totally fine. Okay. So you'd like to get rid of that dead air. I'll bring that up to the team and also do that. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, for this next shot, Journey. Oh, and by the way, I like your flow and your titles and stuff. It all looks really, really clean. Good stuff. So for this shot, music was definitely the main event. If you're listening to the sound effects here, Foley sound editing, sound design, sound mixing. I'm very guilty personally of mixing too low. I mix all my stuff low. Jeff and I, my co-founder at Power Up, Jeff, and I are quite opposite that way. He likes to mix really hot and I mix really quiet. We usually have to try and balance each other out a bit. But this is definitely pretty quiet in my opinion. But maybe it's nice. I mean, if the whole vision of the project is like, put that music up front, then that's awesome.
The player starting a round.
The thing is, the sound effects you did and the Foley work you did is so quiet that it's kind of hard to comment on it because it's so buried. But maybe it's good that it's buried. I don't know. If it's the style that we're going for, then kudos. Thanks, Dash. Yeah, I think so too. We've been going strong for 4 years for a reason, you know? Pretty cute. I like these eyes. Everyone's so happy.
The player starting a round draws a hex, leaves it face down on the table without reading it, and sends it to another player at the table.
All right, so
The
Hex's
targeted
Indiegogo
player then
campaign
uses a
video.
defense card to deflect it to another player. The round draws a hex, leaves it face down on the table without reading it, and sends it to another player at the table. The targeted player then uses a defense card to deflect it to another player.
So, good. It's clean. I'm curious if you did any work on that, like if you were in Isotope RX, killing off that stuff, because it's devoid. It sounds really nice.
Player at the table. The targeted player then uses a defense card
It is quiet,
to
mind you.
another player.
This one I felt like was probably the loosest and or weakest thing in your reel. Bugged out Foley, sound mixing, sound editing, and sound design. So you were in charge of the final result here. I think that this could have been a lot more detailed in terms of syncing to hero moments. But before I say that, let's see what Matt has to say. He says, overall, I think most of the clips are sparse, and that's okay for what they are, but would like to see something that's a bit more busy with SFX. Yeah, right now I'd be pigeonholing you a bit. Pigeonholing is what? So now that could not be a bad thing depending on where you want to go. So I generally agree. It's very kind of here's the thing, and wait a bit, here's a thing, wait a bit, here's a thing. Just in general. So listen to this shot. Here's some stuff. There's not much layered. It's like here's just timeline, like sound 1, sound 2, sound 3, sound 4, which is fine. Next shot though, Foley wise, it's like one thing moving at a time, you know? Same thing.
The player starting
Next
a
shot,
round
dialogue.
then
Well, I
uses a
mean,
defense card to deflect
inherently dialogue is like just one thing and over time, right? Now we'll go on to the next shot. There's a bit of ambience in the background. There's maybe 2-3 layers tops at any given time. Mostly this kind of tongue thing that's doing all the work though. Right? And then the next shot, field recorder.
Edward, if I could do this myself, I would.
Oh, but you're in danger. Excuse me for calling bullshit.
So, so what Matt's saying, what I'm also kind of supporting, is that if you had something like a trailer redesign, or something like gameplay redesign, or something that's a bit more intense, where you can show your chops as far as, well, here's a shot with like, you know, here's a 15-second long sequence, or 10-second long sequence, or here's a full minute, but you just use 10 seconds of it for your reel and have the minute somewhere else in your site. So that 10 seconds could have like 80 things happening, and how do you deal with that? Because that would show versatility a lot. It would also just simply be a good practice for you. It would just be a good thing to do anyways, regardless of if it's for work or not. All these things being work is very good, though. I would argue that all these things being work is objectively at least as good as a fantastic thing that someone did for fun. You know, if they did like an Overwatch trailer for fun and it was killer, this is easily just as good as that, because it shows you're out there working and the passion and the drive is already there. So, pigeonholing is there's only a small set of things that you'd be good at. Assign to a particular category or class, especially in the manner that is too rigid or exclusive. I don't think she's asking what it means, man. I think she's asking what you meant, like what the pigeonhole would be, like what the category or class, what the rigid or exclusive category or class is. Although perhaps I've gone over that already. So back to the content quality point for this shot. It's okay, Angela, but I think that it feels a bit loose. You know, like right there, it's kind of it feels like there's not much. Like there's a lot of focus on some things and no focus on other things. So I'm curious if that was a by choice thing, like stylistically, or if it was just due to being a student or being early in your. When was this? This was 2 years ago. Yeah, there you go. So. Okay, so 2 years ago, there you go. You're obviously much less experienced than you are now, but so how about the bug? Just watch the bug. This is nothing, ever. That had me wondering as to why we heard nothing of this bug. If the thing's called bugged out, and we're not hearing any bugs, it's a little bit confusing to me. And as far as the tongue goes, if you watch the movement and think about kind of what we're hearing, like this is the schlup right here is nice. That's good. And then it's kind of later there. Like it's very loose. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. I think you could easily nix this from your reel if you had some more content. Like if you have to cut it to a minute, I don't think this is. I wouldn't miss it if it wasn't here. You already have this thing here, and it's just as informative. So Matt says, no, more wouldn't think of you from this reel for something sci-fi or high fantasy or combat focused. Would think more for casual or iOS or that area. Yeah, something that needs like a dozen or two sound effects tops. I would be hesitant, for example, to hand off something like Matt's saying, like here's an enemy from Starcrawlers, take care of it. Like I have no idea if you can do that from this reel. I think that since I don't know, I would assume you can't, because you haven't demonstrated to me that you can. And it's not because I don't believe in you, it's just because I can't know. You know, if I have you and somebody else's reel and they have a killer Overwatch, not Overwatch, don't do Overwatch, but they have a killer trailer of some kind that is like has a lot more combat, a lot more action at least, then that's going to be very informative and indicative that they could handle that kind of design. Right now I have no idea if you could. So, and this last shot, like, whatever, field recorder, it's fine.
Tell the truth.
I think just saying, like, oh, as a field recorder is nice, but this scene does nothing for me in terms of knowing what you recorded or anything. Matt says, never do Overwatch, yes. I misspoke, I apologize. So, in terms of distinction, I think that we're done for the content quality. In terms of distinction, there's nothing really here that sets you apart. I think that your site being really tight is a good thing. And I like your about to, it's really cute. But for the reel itself, there is nothing. Never watch. What's up, Singry? I think that there's not much here, and this is only because you're just, you know, it looks a bit student-y, and because you are earlier in your career, excuse me, showing the things you've worked on are only going to go so far, you know? So I don't really have the answer for you as far as how to make it more distinct, but doing things, doing something like getting a game project that's out there, like Limbo, or like, well, there's tons of Unity examples and stuff you could go on and mess with. A while back, Barney Oram did like a Unreal. Was it Unreal or Unity? I think it was Unreal, right? Went to Unreal and like replaced all these sounds and just made a thing himself and put the sound in. He's like, hey, I made this and put the sound in it, and that's pretty awesome. The thing itself was like, whatever, I don't even care. But the fact that he did it at all and it sounds decent is pretty huge. But yours is very, here's a game I did that's kind of sparse and okay. Here is a cartoon or a short film animation that is kind of buried sound, but it sounds fine. And so the various things, they're all okay, and they're a good start, but they're not going to be something that really stands out in the crowd. Apart from the site being really good and proof that you're very active and you're obviously passionate about what you do. That's huge. So that shouldn't be understated. But in terms of content, I think you could probably be a bit more creative and just put time into varying up what's there. Like Matt's saying, could augment with a bit more of a denser trailer clip. Like I was saying, put something that you've implemented yourself. Just some things that show a bit more involvement, and not just involvement in the implementation side of things, but also just involvement in the shot itself. Just have it inherently more active, just to show that you can handle that. You can handle that kind of medium, okay, or that venue. I think that's all for now. If anyone has any questions or comments about Angela's, I'm sure she'll be hanging out, so feel free to do so. And thank you very much. Thank you very much for your submission. I am going to go ahead.